We talk football and current events, sitting and chatting with the very best guests, with two Scottish boys and we're loving it. So if you like witty banter, check the former #1 podcast on iTunes, Sitting and Chatting.
Hello and welcome back to Sitting Chatting Podcast. I'm Liam Whyte.
I'm Allan.
And I'm Cameron Inglis.
Cammy, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
Now, a bit of curtain pulling for the viewers at home. This is actually, we're recording this a week early. You know, me and Jamie are keeping to our once a week, so you know we've had to make real dedications this week. Not at all my fault by any means, but we move. Now, Cammy, I'm going to start with you. We'll start with every guest. What's your earliest memory?
Oh, that is a good question. You know how you've got like tons of wee early ones that float about, but you don't actually have them in order, like stored in your head? I think earliest would probably be around 5 years old, going to my first Thistle game with my dad, probably.
All right.
I can remember just being really young, because at that age I didn't actually like football that much, so he'd take me and my brother, because it was under 16s getting free as well, so you know, nice wee day out, cheap day out. And then my brother didn't really like football, and at that age I didn't really like football, so he'd take two kids who would just sit there on their like Nintendo DS's or Game Boy Advance or whatever, and he'd be like shouting at the ref, "Oh yeah, man," and we'd just be sitting there going,
Where's my new Pokemon? Come on.
"Yeah, come on, Dad, trash at your Charmander here, come on."
You know something? It's a good memory, right? But judging off that memory, I assume you still don't like football.
I actually quite like football now. I
Gobsmacked,
grew into it. My brother stuck with his guns, and he's not really a football guy. And then I kind of come and go with it, mostly because I prefer playing it. I do have a short attention span, but there's nothing better than sitting in a stadium with a good atmosphere, and that's when you're sucked in. But when I'm watching it on the telly, sometimes I do just lose the attention span.
What's the preferred team?
That would be Partick Thistle.
I see. I kind of thought you said that, hence why I says you obviously don't like football anymore. But then you've amazed me even more.
Yeah.
I mean, he's stuck with it. I mean, fair play to him.
No, but not even that. He's amazed me even more. He just says when you watch it on the telly, Partick don't get in the telly.
Exactly.
So,
no, there's very
and then a good atmosphere again. That's fucking mind blowing. But okay.
There's very occasional.
I've been to some wild nights at Firhill. They'll have bouncing.
Aye, that's because the Jakes running about outside it.
True. And most of the good atmosphere nights were probably from Celtic or Rangers, so.
Not at Aberdeen mob anyway.
Definitely.
Fuck off.
What a shit tip of that team that is.
Oh, I can't believe I have to record two of these with you in a row. It's fucking nightmare.
Don't need to, because you do, because you fucked it.
No.
We'll move on, you know, because obviously you don't want to fucking cry about it.
In the scenes.
Fuck off.
So, I mean, also, I don't want to dox you too much, but you also live very close to the stadium as well. Is that kind of what influenced your decision going forward about it?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the first thing that got me into it was my dad taking me when we were Waynes. And then I think there was a period where then in between that sort of, you know, early high school where we just kind of stopped going. But then I can't remember what it was. I think it was one of my family friends was around one night, and they were all getting drunk, and then me and my brother, obviously not of age at that point, we're just sitting there watching adults drink, and we're a bit bored, and then one of them was like, I'm going to jump over to Firhill to go watch, I think it was a midweek game or something, but it was under 16s getting free, and she was like, do you want to come? And I was like, aye. And then I kind of got the ball rolling again where I was like, I actually really like this. And then that used to be my sort of average Saturday. I'd either go with my dad or I'd go with a couple of pals and, you know, go in for free and then go sit and watch Thistle get humped. Whatever the score was that weekend.
I mean, fair play to you. Even though you didn't have to go far, you stuck with it, which, you know, a lot of people wouldn't have done, especially in the modern times with Thistle, to be honest.
True.
Liam.
Yeah. But yeah, so like, have you really missed it? Obviously, being 2 years nearly now since it's been a proper like stadium game.
Yeah, definitely. I've not been, obviously because I was, you know me, I was living abroad as well, so I've not been to a Thistle match for 3 years at this point, probably.
Probably for the best, to be fair.
Yeah. If I was going to pick a time to avoid it, this was the time to do it. The double relegation, you know. But you should have see the end of my street next to Firhill. What was it? 3 weeks ago, when Thistle won League One, was it? There's pyrotechnics going off, big huddles and stuff going around. I was just standing at my fence, like, I'll just watch from here, thanks, you know, for COVID reasons. But
you only risk getting stabbed if you're a few hundred meters behind, you know.
I mean, you know, Thistle fans, ultimate ultras, don't want to be messing with them.
Yeah, no, definitely. They do scream intimidation these days. Nah, so are you looking forward to going back again once all this is over?
Definitely. The fact they're going to be in a slightly better league also, always a good one. Don't know when that'll be though. Don't know when Scotland's going to let fans back into the stadium.
Well, to be honest, when they do, I hope to fuck that you have to face Hamilton and Kilmarnock next season, to be honest. But I don't think it'll happen anytime soon, because the season ticket purchases that happened for Rangers, and amongst it was basically saying that you know, we are appreciative for the continued support. However, it may seem that fans may miss minimum a half of the season, but hopefully it's soon.
Yeah.
And you know, there's nothing to do with Rangers fans about the recent COVID outbreak in Glasgow at all.
Followed on a Sunday by retards. I thought we're not going into that. You asked last night, Liam, and I'll stick by it. We'll not do it. We'll stay away from it.
Yeah, or at least let's save it when it's just you and me, so we can take the brunt of the heat opposed to a guest taking it. But yeah, no. So, like, does your dad still go to, like, obviously before all this as well? Did your dad still go to the games as well?
Yeah. He's still most of the time he's an avid season ticket holder. Yeah. He's got like a dog watching business, so people go off on holidays and he just watches their dogs basically. And that and his pension kind of keep him going. And usually he'll have a season ticket, and then I'll just jump in when I can. Obviously not for the past few years.
See, for a dog walking business, especially the last year when
we're watching like room and board, like a boarding business for him.
See, like, though, obviously with like the last year and everything that's happened, taking in business must be a lot slower for them.
Nada. There's been very little going, but it's not something that like he heavily relies on. He used to work with the police, and he's got a pretty good police pension. The dog stuff just kind of more because he really likes dogs and has the time and has the room to do it. So
I suppose fair play. I mean, I can imagine, especially if you retire early, it must get to a point where you're fucking fed up just doing nothing all day.
Exactly. Need the dog's energy just to get you at the house, probably.
But yeah, we've obviously jumped a wee bit forward to here then. So talk about your early life. So Partick, born and raised, is that correct?
Pretty much, yeah. Maryhill, born and raised. My gran's at the house we live in now. My gran had like my entire childhood, and then we moved. We were living sort of 10 minutes away for, I think, until I was in primary 3, and then we moved into this house full time for the past. What was that? What would that be, like almost 18 years, something like that. So Maryhill boy. But not like the rough part of Maryhill, like the posh part next to the Thistle Stadium.
There's a good part of Maryhill.
There's less bad parts.
Fair. But so like, obviously, like I say, we'll get into a wee bit later, but you've obviously moved abroad and such, so you've obviously been away from home at certain points.
Yes.
Has it been a pain for you to come back and sort of live in like your parents' gaff again, especially during COVID?
Yeah, so like when I was abroad and stuff, I had my own house or my own like student room and all that stuff. And then I definitely had a lot more freedom. But then coming back, obviously with COVID, so many restrictions, you want to be, you want to rely on yourself and be safe and stuff like that. And also just living with your parents again after a like extended time of not doing it. It's just this weird limbo thing where you're like, oh, it's nice to be back. You get a few things done. You get like maybe a wee free dinner going, or like your washing done every now and you're like, oh yeah, yes. And then but then you'll be like, Then you'll wake up and you'll be like, oh, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you? And you're like, oh, just maybe not.
Now you're living here, we get to tell you what to do again. See, that's it. Like, me and my mum have a really good relationship, and we always have done. But I feel like if the last year I would have had to have lived back at home, that would have really strained that quite a bit. Like, I don't know how you could still do it, Jamie, especially as well with your sister and the gaff. It must get like, not like claustrophobic because it's like a big enough gaff, but you know what I mean? Especially like during lockdown, it must have gotten really constricted at a point.
No,
not for you at all.
Deal with it, mate. Sorted.
Yeah. Mate, this is my space. End of story. It's all I needed, mate, here in the kitchen. That was it. Know what I mean? And the toilet as well, obviously.
I was about to say, yeah.
I love a shite, to be fair, so definitely. But nah, it was fine. Like, there's no reason whatsoever that I would feel. To be fair though, the difference is I've never had my own space like you are talking about, do you know what I mean? So I would never be bothered. So I would never find it claustrophobic or whatever, do you know what I mean? So
suppose, yeah, maybe if you'd experienced that sort of away from it for a bit and then came back, you might have realised, well, maybe not as shit, but it's just like, oh yeah, I forgot, I can't get away with this, I can't get away with that anymore. But so, what was school like, early life like? Did you go to school in Maryhill as well?
No, so my high school and primary school were just sort of closer to the West End, more like Byres Road area. Went to Hillhead. You've obviously met Thayjamieallan, Liam. So you know a little bit about what my childhood was like.
I don't know. Did you go to primary with Thayjamieallan?
Yeah, we went to primary school. Thayjamieallan came to our primary in, I think, primary 3. Moved up from London, and he's been here ever since. And then I think around primary 4, primary 5 was when me and Thayjamieallan kind of hung out quite a lot and started being good friends. And then that just kind of carried on throughout high school, and then went off to China with Thayjamieallan and was roommates with him. So sort of
together for a long time. Yeah. Nah, can't get rid of the boy.
I've been trying. I tried to leave him in China, and he just found his way back.
Disgraceful.
So yeah, that was it was a good school. Not too many Jakies. No, not really many chances of getting stabbed. Primary school was annoying. There was a wee shed the football always went on, and you had to like climb up the stairs and go around the fence and all that, and then walk across a glass ceiling to just get a football, or like jump over a wall to a lane and stuff like that.
Sounds like a health and safety nightmare.
I actually got caught by our head teacher once. So I kicked the ball back over, and then someone shouted the Heedy was coming, so I tried to scramble back, didn't have time, and then I was just kind of caught in no man's land on the roof. So I just kind of face planted. I was like, "Please don't see me! Please don't see me!"
Well, you face planted on the glass ceiling.
Yeah, I figured I was a small, scrawny kid and stuff like that. Figured my chances were better. I'd rather fall through a glass ceiling at that point than get caught doing something bad by a head teacher.
Your priorities were all wrong.
They were. My mum was an attendance officer, so I wasn't allowed to miss school or get in trouble.
Oh no, that actually must be the worst. I can't think of anything worse than like a parent working at the school. It must just be the fucking.
She wasn't at my school, but she knew everyone at my school. So for 6 years, I had 100% attendance in high school. Broke my arm on a Saturday. Was still in school by the Monday.
Nah, that's abuse, by the way. I would have reported that to Childline at that point. You're at least due 1 or 2 days off. Like, it doesn't matter like how fucking like great you are in terms of like dealing with illness. At some point in 6 years, you will be ill.
Apparently not. Apparently it was just my mum somehow found a way to make sure I was never ill. That was the power of the attendance.
Parents like that though must now fucking hate it with COVID, because if their kid even has like a slight snivel, they'll be told to stay off for 2 weeks at this point.
Mum, because my mum's working at another school now, it's mental. Like, cause if one kid has it, they have to send like all the kids that sit next to them as well. So I think my mum came home, I think on Monday or something like that, and they'd sent 70 kids straight away.
Sent 70 kids home?
70 kids in a day, straight home to go isolate.
Is Glasgow no bad now, but as well, it's like all stores fuck off. All schools are closing now.
Yeah, they're quite bad. They're either closing or they're just not got that many people in because so many of them are isolating, I think.
Fucking mental.
I think it's that Indian variant as well that's spreading quite a lot.
Oh, that is fucked everything royally going
It's
forward.
ripping right through Scotland, man. Here we
Yeah.
go. Back to lockdown 3.
Because if not, then this Friday would have been the first Friday that clubs and stuff were open and like alcohol indoors.
Well, yeah,
Well, we've got alcohol indoors down here.
yeah, but I mean, it's literally a little bit of time left because my family are coming up from Jersey at the moment, and they've been told, but if like you go through Stirling, you have to isolate for 2 weeks when you go home. So it's just like I'm just waiting for everything to close again.
Yeah.
Right, it's
Oh,
going to
man.
happen, but I'll milk it while we can now.
Well, I mean, I've got a week off. I'm going to get the most in. Hopefully by that point, then
Hopefully
we'll be
it's
off.
fucked for the week off. Fuck you.
Fuck you.
No, Wednesday I went bowling. Tomorrow I'm going to a restaurant. I'm going to get rat-assed. I can't fucking wait, man.
Living the good life, whereas
Exactly.
poor Cameron's stuck indoors
Fuck
forever
it, that's what you
again.
get for being from Maryhill, but innit?
I being in Maryhill, I can just wait until about 2 a.m. and then I can just walk outside and I'll just hear some bams having a party.
You can walk
See
in
that?
rolling.
I don't know if you've seen the thing that was shared on Facebook yesterday. Like the car on fire.
That I forgot to mention. I seen you. What the fuck happened there?
Alright, so I don't know what happened, but everybody, and I swear everybody in my profile thought it was Maryhill,
Yeah.
Okay.
and it says
No.
Mayhill.
Ah.
But everybody thought, oh, it was. I fuck knows what it was, but I seen it. I was like, that's fucking funny. Shared it. That was
Honestly, I don't think I'd be that shocked if I saw something like that at Maryhill.
it. Mate, to be fair, I see when I first seen it, I was like, Maryhill. Oh no, wait, hold on. It says Mayhill. I was like, when this happens, me.
Yeah, that sort of shows how bad a reputation has in your brain. Just automatically goes, must be Maryhill.
Nah, it has to be.
Maryhill.
Aye. Fucking brilliant, but aye, that's what I seen that on Facebook and thought, oh, I'll bring it up then. But no, that's funny.
So what was school life like for you then? Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it?
Yeah, I quite liked it. I think when it comes to high school, it usually just comes down to your pals. You don't really, it's less about school and more about the people you're around. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I had Vishal and Callum, we were kind of a set group, but then we did basketball, so we had quite a lot of pals from that. We had a thing called MTA at our school, which was quite good. It's like the last period on a Friday afternoon. Instead of doing a class, you get like extracurricular optional stuff. So you could do football, you could do rugby, you could do movie club, you could do cross country, badminton. You know, there was all sorts going. So me and my pals would always pick football for like 6 years straight, and we'd always go to the nearby like football.
Oh, you even got that option as like in the start of your high school days.
Yeah, 1st year to 6 years straight.
It was called Fantastic Friday in our school.
Oh yeah. Oh,
You
what was
didn't
it?
fucking have that.
Primary school? Golden time in primary school.
Aye,
or
golden.
whatever.
Aye, gold time.
It was
It's like-
Fantastic Friday, man. What a day.
Wait, that's the most fucking bam name.
I had one for every day as well because I used to change it sometimes. It was like Marvelous Monday, Terrific Tuesday, Wonderful Wednesday. And then it was like,
You're definitely the type of guy as a Wayne that would have loved that. It's just like, yeah, he's fucking getting this
Unless you're
fantastic
right
Friday.
again.
you're right, man. I used to turn up I used to turn up, see on the Fantastic Friday, I used to be in the full yellow Liverpool kit. And on the
What
back,
year?
and it was called Banana Man.
Nice.
What a fuck, what, mate, honestly. What
Please
a
tell me
time.
you still have that kit somewhere.
Nah, there, fuck. That was some time to be alive, but mate, honestly. Banana Man.
golden
Watch it. Aye.
We used to have in 5th and 6th year, we used to get the extracurricular periods, but we never got offered anything fun like that. It was always like, what was our one? The one that I took was the biggest fucking scam of all time. It was the one in 5th year that we had to take. Like, it was a mandatory. You had to take it, but it replaced the class, so it didn't matter. So we had it twice a week, and it was like open journalism or something. And I technically got 2 degrees from that, which, you know, I still on my CV to this day. But one of them was like a movie one. So like each week it would give you like set topics and you had to like follow them all the way through to get your grade. And I just like clicked on each one, just like clicked forwards because I wasn't arsed. And then I'd just be playing fucking, what was it called? Run 3 the entire time.
Oh, Run. That was
The
a time.
entire
Cool
year,
last game.
the entire year, me and like Stu and Liz, Oliver, and that just tried to spend the entire year completing this one game, just like in all the bonus levels and all the extra levels on top of that. It was fucking great.
Still
But I
fucking
got to
sweaty at it.
that's a challenge I'm willing to accept. But we when we were doing this course, I didn't realise on the last day it gave me a test. And I thought, fuck, I haven't read a single thing. Got 29 out of 30, got given an A.
Nice.
Perfect. So it shows everyone you can bullshit your way through anything.
Mhm. Definitely.
Shows you that running free was life.
Run free. Oh, what a game, by the way. Not only did you have like the 100 base levels, but then you had like extra island courses, and then there was a Christmas expansion pack, and then there was extra levels on top of that. Game went on for a
Different gravy.
fucking year.
Different gravy.
What a game. Is Cool Maths game still a thing? Is that still up and going?
Derby. That was an iconic.
Nah, surely that's been taken down now.
Let's have a wee Google while we're
We Google
searching.
Cool Math game. What
Cool
type?
Maths games.
I feel like everyone had that class where it was just Cool Maths games.
Yeah, it's still
Soon as you
there,
got
and it's still there, and the most popular game on it is still Run Free. So I mean, it shows you how much of an elite game it was. I haven't played that in about 6 years.
Everybody watching this, just go play Run Free. It was an actual fucking stonker of a game, man.
Can literally spend days on it. Not even joking. It's free. It's perfect.
Aye. Just a phenomenal game.
So obviously, like going forward, then, did you have any idea what you wanted to do after school? In a sense,
Not a clue. Part of the reason I ended up where I did was because I just had no idea what I wanted to do here, to be honest.
Yeah.
First year, I think first to third year, you do your classes and you're like, oh, I kind of like this, kind of like that. And then you obviously pick stuff for hires. Our school was a bit fucked though, because obviously our generation was the guinea pigs for the new SK
the Nat fives.
The Nat 5s and Nat 4s.
Yeah,
all that.
so for those that maybe don't know, if you're listening, if you're not in the Scottish system like the rest of us, there's 6 years in high school, and then in your 4th to 6th year, if you stay that long, Jamie, you get to do your.
One cut.
That was so delayed. Basically, you do your. Well, at the time it was called standard grades, and then you do that for 3 years. But our generation was the first to experience nationals. So you go national 4, national 5, higher, advanced higher, if you are really smart, which I did not do.
What a surprise.
I mean, at least I took an exam.
I mean, I did, I just failed it. There's a
Like
difference.
Graven.
There's a difference. You wanted to add it.
No, do you know what as well? I know we're going slightly off topic, but I'll never forget doing prelims again. If you're not familiar, it's like a warm up to the exam, which is the shittest thing ever, because you're studying for something that doesn't even fucking matter, or doing a test or something that doesn't even matter. It doesn't affect your grades. And I just remember half an hour into my design and manufacture exam, just hear the door burst open and Jamie just waddle on through because he'd slept in for the exam.
Yes.
And then promptly getting chucked out straight away, and then being eventually let back in. And then he spent about half an hour in doing the paper and then fucked off again.
Last in, first out. That's the
Failed it as well.
I know, I'm shocked. Yeah, so now going forward, so like, were you quite good at school then? Like, did you do a lot of hires or?
I wasn't awful. I wasn't the best. I wasn't like a straight A student or whatever. My thing is, I was always more like maths focused, so like physics, maths. That was the kind of stuff I was interested in.
Okay.
Wanted to do PE, but because of the way the schedule was, I had to do chemistry. So we did hires, but we did 4th and 5th year hires instead of doing 4th year and that 5, 6 year, 5th year hire. We just went and did the 2 year hire. So it was like you got this one chance to do your hires, and if you fail, you've only got 6 years to make up for it, and you don't get as many classes and as much time and stuff as well. So we were guinea pigs, and also they were just like, hey, we don't have any of the material this year because you guys are the first one to do it. So like our entire 4th year was just like, entire 4th year was like, we're kind of think this might be in the exam, but we don't know. We're just going to make you learn it, and then if it's not, that sucks, And then we finally got the stuff to actually teach us.
It must be a nightmare for teachers as well, because they'll probably just be given like, this is what you need to teach the kids, and it'll be like a fucking blank page. It's like, do it yourself. Like, oh fucking hell, I don't know what to teach.
That's my worst. That would be my worst nightmare as a teacher, is like just not having anything and just having to guess. Plus, also like then if you teach something wrong, or you don't teach them what they need and they fail an exam, it's your ass. Like you've ruined their future by not teaching them the right thing.
Ruined their future.
Ruined their future. Hires are everything.
Nah,
They are all that matter.
School's for fucking wieners. But like Liam.
Because I done so well at school.
Sat there with your
I got my free hires.
Sat there with your free hires and your Stella Artois, your wife beating bastard.
Should have got the vest suit.
No.
So how did the exams go then? Did you do well? Bad?
I kind of worked out the ones that I liked doing, I did well in, and then the ones that I didn't like doing, I just kind of got C's or failed. The one that I really hated was chemistry. I just did not have time for chemistry. I don't know what it was about that class. It was like a bad teacher, and I was sitting next to Vishal for 2 years as well. So it was just like that class was just a write-off from the start.
Honestly, I can fucking relate to bad chemistry teachers. Do you remember Dr. Abraham, Jamie?
I never had them, but I remember of them.
Any teacher that has a doctor, like, how did you get a doctor and then go teach high school?
No, that's the thing, right? She was the most useless fucking cunt of all time.
Oh, wait,
right?
I thought it was a guy, so never mind.
No, but she was like this doctor, and she was always like, I'm a doctor, listen to me, I can best. But she used to teach up at the university, but apparently she was so useless up there, they sacked her, and Stirling High then took her in. So it shows the level.
Yeah.
And like even on like fucking parents' night, she'd wear like a doctor's coat to like talk to the parents, just like, oh yes, with like a wee doctor badge on. Just like, fuck off. This ain't dress
I do remember now. She out of her form class, she was one on the left, wasn't she?
Nah, she was the one that took over our form class after Miss Sinclair left,
Oh, but
literally she was fucking useless, and she hated me as well, which made it even worse for me, but fucking despised her.
Many people like you to be fair though.
That's fair, to be honest. But yeah, no, so once all was said and done then, and you got your results back, I suppose what was the plan at that point then? Did you have one, or?
Not really. So at the end of 5th year, when we got our higher results back, I did okay. I think I failed 2 and got 4, so like 4 hires. I think I got 1 A and 3 C's at higher. I think that was it. And then I had my plans to go into 6th year and try and make up for. I think I failed English. So in 6th year I had to redo that because I didn't want to leave without a decent English qualification, because I heard that was quite important, but it means nothing. Looking back, it means fuck all. But then went in 6th year, and then in that summer between 5th and 6th year, I went on this bridge camp with high school, and it was basically because our school had a Confucius hub. Every year they did a trip to China, like a summer trip for, I think it's 3 weeks, and you get basically stuck in a hotel with whoever you go with. Your teachers look after you, and you just kind of get supervised walk rounds of different places in China. Like we did the Great Wall, the Bird's Nest in Beijing, and then we went to Tianjin, which is where I ended up doing my uni. And that's like a partner school with Strathclyde. And that uni and Strathclyde are quite tight, just because every year they send us. So yeah, we went there, did 3 weeks in China of just cultural stuff, basically sitting you in a room and just going, learn this about China, paint this Peking opera mask, learn some Chinese, all this stuff. And then I'd actually done Chinese in 1st to 3rd year because I just did not like French. And it was an option in our school. I was like, as soon as I could get away from French, I took it. I was like, nah, I'll do Chinese.
Back again, that notion.
French is a fucking shit language, by the way. I don't know why they still teach it.
I don't know why people speak it.
Yeah. Don't know what it is about it for me, but I just hate it.
On the country.
No, do you know what it is, right? It's because it's always it's always fucking dickheads that teach it. It's never, you never get a kid.
There's always dickheads that know it.
That's a good point, to be honest.
Fucking
actually.
the country is full of arrogant bastards. Just burn it, do you know what I mean? Fuck it. Burn it. That's the way I see it. Plus, your teacher was a fucking literal gimp. Like, he was the worst. Honestly, man. He's the kind of guy that would turn up to school and teaching hot pants. That was the kind of guy he was. Hitting it would be his fucking bonjour, je
Casual
m'appelle.
Friday, a bit too casual.
Je m'appelle fucking dickhead, man. No chance. Shite language. Absolute shite language. So, right, see, going on to it, right, see when you said you learnt Chinese, was it Mandarin or was it actual Chinese?
Mandarin, yeah. So like mainland China instead of...
And was it simplified or
Canton.
the actual...
Yeah, so we learned the simplified one. I could never... Traditional was just for the writing for the characters, and honestly, it's just mental. It's just the same thing, but just extra strokes for...
So,
too complicated to remember.
how much of it can you speak? Obviously, I know you'll not know it fluently because it's...
Well, so after 6 years, and I lived there for I think 3 years altogether. So I can speak conversational. I would say definitely not fluent, but I could get in a taxi and get where I'm going, or go to a restaurant and know roughly what I'm ordering, kind of thing.
Is it similar to? So, for example, like Indians, they can either speak like Urdu or Punjabi. There's loads, right?
Yeah, there's loads of dialects and stuff.
But as in when they speak, it's more in the accent. In some slang terms, is it similar to Chinese, or is it as words?
Yeah, there's definitely that, because just how big China is. There's so many different like areas that speak their own sort of dialects. So there's like an all-round mainland China, and that's just Mandarin, like standardized Mandarin. But then each area and province will have their own sort of spin on it, whether it's just a different accent on how they say stuff, or whether it's a completely different dialect with its own words and own slang and stuff like that. Yeah. So it just kind of depends where you end up, really. I suppose how much of standard Mandarin you learn and how much of the local dialect you learn.
Is there like, you know, like obviously in Scotland, I don't know if this is going to sound thick or not, but like, you know, in like Scotland, if you were to go from say like Glasgow to Edinburgh, you notice quite a big difference in the accent. Is that similar in like China? If like you went from
I'd say it's similar, but just on a bigger scale. Like,
right,
I was in sort of North China, near Beijing. So where I was to Beijing, pretty similar accent. But if you go a lot further north, you would get a slightly different accent, and then a lot further south, you get a different one, and then sort of over to the west as well, you get a completely different one. So I'd say it's the same, but just Scotland is quite unique in the sense that it's so small, yet it has so many dialects, whereas China would be probably the same thing, just a bigger scale.
Yeah. So, like, obviously, you're saying you first went out there when you were in 5th year. Did you really enjoy it then? I take it if that's what inspired you to go back.
I wouldn't say I overly enjoyed it. I think the worst part was that we went in summer, and summer in China is just like humidity. You step outside and you need a shower as soon as you, like, 1 foot outside, you need a shower when you go back. Otherwise, you're just sweating your ass off. Honestly, it's all right. You know, I've quite enjoyed it in 5th year, because I was in high school and they took you everywhere, so you didn't really have any pressure to do anything. And you were basically and it was quite cheap as well, and you were just getting basically fed nice restaurant food and shown around all these cool places.
Were you ever when you went over to school, were you given like sort of free reign to go and do whatever you wanted? Were you given like a day out where like, you know, you could go wherever you wanted?
You're kind of given boundaries, so like they would take you to an area and just say, don't go past this, go wild.
Were you able to get into any of the pubs when you were over there?
No, I was not, but I'm pretty sure Struan got some alcohol. I think he got caught drinking on the roof, actually. That's a fun story, if you ask him about that. So him...
Nah, go on, you can out him in this.
Him, Oliver... I'm trying to think who else. I think there was a wee group of them that sort of knew each other, the sort of Stirling crew. They managed to get some booze from the shops, and they went up to the roof and were drinking on the roof. And then I think on their way back down in the lift, our like supervisor of the entire trip caught them, all of them, like pissed out their mind or something like that. And somehow Struan and them got back on the scholarship the next year. But you should ask him about that. I don't know the full ins and outs of the story, but he got caught drunk underage in a foreign country.
That's fine. That's what happens most days. I'm not gonna lie, right? Before this, because also I don't know much about your time in China, so I did ask Struan for a wee bit of insight into your time in China. It's given me a few nuggets, which I'll ask you about in a wee bit.
Oh, God.
But see, just before we get onto that, like, see when you got out there, was the reason you went back out to do a scholarship out there because you went there first time, like during your school times?
It was kind of knock-on effect. So I went in that summer bridge camp, and then from that I got offered the opportunity to apply for a scholarship. So it was
Right.
like, when you leave 6th year, you can go China for a year, and just study Mandarin, and they'll pay for it all. So it was like they pay for all your accommodation, all your tuition. All you had to
Wow.
pay for was your flights, and you get like a monthly stipend from the Chinese government, and it was enough to sort of sustain your lifestyle over there as well, for food and drink and stuff.
That's a really fucking good deal.
So
Correct me if I'm wrong on this. Obviously, like most students over here, like they sort of go out and work. Am I right in thinking that you guys weren't technically allowed to work under your sort
yes.
of visa?
So if you're on a student visa, you're legally not allowed to work. Tons of people do it anyway, but it's
Why is
really
that,
annoying.
though?
It's just because China's quite strict, I think, because they want to. Obviously, they don't want. I think it's like, see, if you come as a student here, you do still have to do a lot of paperwork to get a job. I think you just need to prove you have the right to work. And I think it's similar over there, where they're just trying to keep track of who's coming in for what reasons. I think they're obviously a lot stricter with their borders, and foreigners coming in and stuff. And the government over there has obviously got its own thing going on. Less said about that, less likely they'll get in trouble here. But essentially, yeah, I think they're just super strict, and they just don't want you earning untaxable money. And just quite a lot of people do, like Russian students, is they'll get a really shitty college degree or something like that, like just a really shitty random off-brand Chinese college, and they just won't go to classes, and they'll just get a full-time job on a student visa. And just get it all cash in hand. So I think that's quite a big problem as well, because there's quite a lot of money there.
Yeah.
Especially in English teaching, like you can earn 20, 30 quid an hour, depending where you are.
Jeez.
Literally, I think I was earning, my first sort of Chinese teaching gig, I was earning about 20 quid an hour. And it's like classes of maybe 5-6 Chinese kids. And all you're really doing is saying, hello, my name is, and you just get them to repeat it back.
Like my mate Tasha, her flatmate at the moment is like teaching Chinese kids English, and you hear them, it's just like, hello, my name is Kate, and like just like that, it's like 5 words a minute, like it's no pressure whatsoever.
Yeah, it's just something that we don't have over here. Like, it's an extracurricular thing outside of school, where kids are like forcing their parents are forcing their kids to try and learn English, and they pay fuck tons of money to do it as well. Like, there's so many of these like English teaching schools that literally just operate throughout the week. Maybe like after 5-6 p.m. when the kids are done, they'll do a class at night time, or Saturday, Sunday they'll be there until like 9 till 6 or 7 p.m. Just teaching kids English of different age groups and stuff. And it pretty much all boils down to, hi, my name is, and
so
just
it's
getting
quite
them,
easy,
yeah. And it's not even teaching them, it's getting them to learn to repeat it back to you. It's like teaching a dog a trick, to be honest. Like, you're not, they don't know what they're doing. They're just learning that when you say a word, that's what they say back. They don't actually learn that much, I don't think, just because of the style they're taught in. But for 20 quid an hour, I'll do whatever you want me to.
So I don't think we went over it, but what is it you actually went over there to study during your 3 years?
So my first scholarship, I went over and I did just Mandarin Chinese, and that was the one out of 6 year where I met Struan, and there was like 20 other Scottish kids. And then it was like 2 semesters of just learning Chinese, trying to get to a certain level, pass a sort of standardized test, just so we could come back in Strathclyde to be like, look at this, these are our Waynes, they did really good. When in fact we basically spent a whole year just getting drunk off the Chinese government's money.
You would never, Cammy.
I would never.
I'm gobsmacked you've said that live.
I know you're about to get invaded by Chinese secret police.
Just go get a letter and saying I owe them so and so amount of money. Any alcohol I bought in China, they're going to ask me to pay it back.
I mean, it'll be worth about 30p, so I mean, it'll be fine.
True. And then I came back after that year, and I really enjoyed it. And I came back. Originally, I was going to come back and do like engineering in Scotland, but
Did you have enough of China at that point, or were you?
No, so like I really enjoyed my time there. So when I came back, I actually changed my plans, saved up, and then went back to do my degree over there. And that was like my second time going out. And this time it was like fully before it was like a sort of Scottish government and Chinese government coalition that like, paid for the scholarship. But then the second time it was just pure Chinese government controlled, nothing to do with Scotland. Any foreigner in the world can do it. And that's just and it was the same deal though. It was like they paid for your accommodation, tuition, everything. All you really needed to do is pay for your flights and get there.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it costs a fucking, because I've seen the flights to China, it costs a fucking shit ton to go there. But if you think about it over the grand scheme of things, of like a full year, it's actually a really good deal that seems to be
it's like pay 600 quid or whatever to get a flight over. And then you've got a full year of living off the government, basically. Per class.
What are there? Obviously, I don't know if you know much about like Scottish or UK sort of universities, but what are like the main differences between like the two?
I'd probably say teaching styles and like social life there.
Okay.
So here you go to uni and it's bit of it is obviously learning and doing your degree, but quite a lot of it's quite a social thing as well. Like you grow up socially, you go learn to go to the pubs, you do all these societies and all this stuff.
I've never done such a thing.
China, it's a lot more like just academic. All it is like revise, study hard.
Is it? Sorry to interrupt. Is it actually as strict as like it's made out to be? Like our parents like genuinely like, yeah, this is be all and end all. Like if you fail this, you fail at life, basically.
Yes and no. So like there's like the things that you see like parents like forcing their kids to do well at everything and do nothing but study. That definitely happens. There's definitely that like mentality there. But also they're just normal people as well. It's the same as here. Like you'll get different styles. You'll get those kids that devote their life to high school and uni, and then you'll get those kids that it's just not for them. They'll drop out and they'll go work in a pub or do whatever. I think there's definitely a lot of misconceptions here about China. Like there is people forget it's a city of or a country of 1 billion people. Like there is a lot of variety there. They're not all 1 billion people doing the exact same thing every day. You know, like some people I think of them as like worker bees and stuff like that, or ants, where they're all just doing the same thing. But they are obviously individuals just doing their own thing, cutting about, living their life.
No, that's fair. And so what eventually made you come back? Was it just because you finished, or did you decide you had enough?
I came back in November there.
In 2020?
2020, November 2020.
Right.
So that was me just about to finish my third year, first semester. So I still had about another year and a half to go. But partly because of COVID, so I definitely, like, I do enjoy studying Chinese, but I was definitely also over there for the scholarship and the social life.
Yeah.
Like, the beers are cheap. I had a good group of friends. You know,
except for Strain.
Except for Strain, he was just a burden the whole time. Oh God, hope he doesn't see this.
I mean, does he fuck watch? Does he fuck?
You should do a clips channel and just say Cameron bad mouth and Strain and shit like that. Get your guests on there, just try and dox them as much as possible. Put together clips of them.
Wait, I mean, we had Strain on about 2 years ago in this, and you, in about 10 minutes, have given far more detail about China than he ever did. So
he's a vivid storyteller. It's just his stories always go like the opposite way of what you were asking about.
Pretty much, yeah.
But yeah, it was like I enjoyed Chinese language. Like the first year I went, I really enjoyed it. All we did was Chinese language, and it was really interesting. And I went back and I kind of wanted to replicate that. But when I went back to do the degree, there was a lot more like culture and history, and you had to do a lot more intensive study about China instead of just the language. Not to get me wrong, like Chinese culture is really interesting, and the history there is like really cool if you're interested in that.
Aye.
But I'm just really not, like in English, I'm not really interested in poetry or history and stuff like that. So I'm really not interested in another language either.
No, that's fair. Like, would you ever be interested in going over, Jamie? Like, in visiting like a country like that?
I don't know. I mean, I like the idea of everyone always goes on about the idea of going to Japan. Like literally everybody I speak to loves the idea of going to Japan. But I don't know. I mean, I'd probably like to go and just experience it to say I've done it, but I don't know if I would, necessarily want to live there for a period of time. Maybe as like a holiday or a month away or whatever, and try and understand the way of life. But nah, living there is just not something that would appeal to me.
And I was actually this close to booking tickets to go there in 2020. I nearly fucked about $1,000 worth of money in one go there. That was.
Vishal actually booked tickets. He was going to be coming over in the summer of 2020, and I think he lost I think he got some of it back, but he lost 200-300 quid or something like that.
Yeah, me and my mate Francis were planning on visiting Struan. At one point, we were like this close to booking the tickets, and and I'm glad we couldn't quite agree on dates, because otherwise we would have been fucked out of so much money going forward. But in terms of the social aspect, now I will put this preface on this, okay? Struan did say that you're okay to tell all of these stories on the podcast. Okay. However, if you say no to any of them, I will then cut out, okay? So that's the deal we've got. So it's a good start. The first one he says, ask him about the time he got arrested.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. So this was in
so you're fine to say that?
Yeah, that's fine. It's not that
fine.
So this was in my first year going over, so like the after 6th year when I was about 18. And what had happened was I didn't know how to ride a bike, and then my girlfriend at the time had taught me how to ride a bike in our like secured safe campus.
Wait, so you never like grew up on like a bike or that as a kid?
Yeah, just never learned. Living in Maryhill, if you have a bike, it'll get stolen. So
it's a fair point.
Just never really had an interest in it. Never really thought like, oh, do you know what I'll do today? I'll go for a cycle or I'll learn.
I mean that's fair. I suppose it's so normal that just most kids like are given like a bike at 4 years old and like go away and ride that.
It was just one of those things that you just grow up like. Everyone has a wee gap in their knowledge. Mine was just I think I learned to swim quite late compared to other kids, and then also didn't learn to ride a bike until I was 18. And then what had happened was I'd learned to ride a bike in this sort of safe, secure bit of our campus. And then the next day I was like, oh, do you know what I'll do? I'll go and hit the streets of China where nobody follows any designated traffic rules and it's a bit of a free-for-all. That's totally fine. That'll work out. So I went for like an hour cycle, and then I checked my phone and I realized I had a meeting with like a language partner back at the uni, and I was going to be late. So I started like boosting it back to the university, and I went down this really narrow street, and then I ended up just going by a taxi and just dinking it, and then the taxi
did you properly like damage it or
no, like genuinely the tiniest of scratches, but the taxi driver proceeded to pull over, kick the customer they had in his car out, chase me down, pull me off my bike, and then was like, come back, look at this, and then started shouting at me in Chinese, and I was like, and I understood the words he was saying, but I was just like, oh, sorry, no understand. Sorry.
Hoping he'd fuck off.
played dumb foreigner, hoping he'd fuck off. And then police came, like traffic police came, got put in the back of their car and took to like a traffic. They've got like designated traffic police stations. Got taken to one of them and put in a random office with some random Chinese officer.
Damn.
Then I was just chatting away to him, and then so what I did was I messaged my like language partner that I was supposed to be meeting for nice cross-cultural communication. By the way, could you bring like I had no money on me either. I was like, can you bring like 100 yuan, like 10 quid or something, to the Chinese police station where I am and sort this out for me, please? Thanks.
Wait, so is that how much it costs to fix a scratch? It was 10 quid.
It wasn't even that. It was like he was asking. So that's quite common in China. Is they'll try and like. We got warned about this before we went over. Is like if anything happens, like traffic accidents or whatever, they'll try and settle it with you first, just handshake deals. but they're always going to try and scam you as a foreigner. They're always going to be like, oh, this cost me thousands and thousands of pounds, or so hand it over or you'll get in a lot of trouble and stuff. But we were warned, just always go to if the police show up, and always just go with the police, because they'll make sure you don't actually get scammed. And then it was essentially turned into negotiations, where when my new band came, it was like my language partner came, and it was literally just the guy going, oh, this is going to cost me so much money, and then everyone else in the room going, really? And then he was like, yeah, this kid ran into my taxi. And then they asked me, oh, what happened? I was like, oh, I went like that right by him, barely scratched his taxi. And they went out and looked at his taxi and like, yeah, no, you're not getting thousands of pounds from this foreigner. And then it was just sort of negotiating it down. And eventually, like, are you willing to pay like 10 quid? And I was like, yeah, sure. Paid that, and then that was it.
Were you shouting yourself when you got put in the back of the postcard?
A little bit, like, obviously never been in that situation. You're in a foreign country, you don't fluently speak the language. I was a bit, but also I thought it would just be a fun story, to be honest. Like at that age, in that whole year, it was just kind of like anything bad or exciting that happened, it was always just kind of like, this will be a fun story. It was less worried about the consequences.
Well,
and then it just kind of worked itself out, to be honest.
Well, I appreciate you being honest. And now, if you see the title of this podcast being "Arrested in China," this is what happened next. ... You know
the
why?
game's the game. You got to get those clickbait views,
Mate, every week. I used to never do it. Now it's every single week.
Get them views.
Okay, so again, if you don't want to have this kept in, I'm not gonna lie, Cammy, it's kind of done you dirty, as you might expect. He's never it's not purely a nice story in here by the looks of it. But the time you got the time that you pissed on someone.
Oh yeah, you open book here. Yeah, that's fine. Basically, we had this friend called Lex, who's this sort of half British, half German girl. Right. Pretty strong, like London accent. But basically, it was like So I went to this French bar, and it was like a wine night, and it was literally pay 10 quid and get unlimited wine in a buffet. And I wasn't much of a wine drinker, to be honest. I'm still not really. And then it was basically just free flowing wine, no beers or anything. I was like, well, I'll drink wine. And I was with a bunch of like Europeans, like Italians and stuff, wine is sacred to them, And I was just like, wine's just grape juice, man, So I just started doing all this dumb drinking stuff, and I got more and more pissed as the night went on. And every time an Italian was like, Cameron, you're being so stupid, I just down a bottle, like a glass of wine, just to like piss him off. So as you can imagine, I got rather inebriated, rather pissed out my nut. And then went to another bar, met up with Struan and this girl Lex. And then as I was walking back home, I was like, I am bursting for a piss. So I went, did the manly natural thing, and went up to a tree and pissed on a tree. And then Lex just starts coming up and starts, like that child is, shaking them when you're peeing and all that kind of shit. So I was pissed out my nut, so I just turned around and it was like, fuck it. If you want to annoy me, that's your problem. This is leaving my system. If you want it to be in your direction, that is your choice. That was how my brain was.
Honestly, I can't fault it, to be fair. I mean,
it's a valid story. It's not like I just went around, I'm not some sexual predator that gets his rocks off, people.
Well, in saying that, do you want to bring up the time when you were around at mine for the party?
Oh, God. I blame Callum for that. That was all Callum.
Was all Callum. You're entirely correct.
Also, let's face it, everyone egged him on for that as well.
Yeah, no, rightly so. And then all of you regretted it, rightly so as well. So for Jamie and the audience, when Struan was back for a wee while back from China, I had a welcome home party for him. Some of his mates from China came, some of his schoolmates came. And this was in the middle of the summer when Scotland was weirdly experiencing a heat wave. So we had both fans on, all the doors were open, all the windows were open, still boiling it or not. And anyway, the night's gone on, I guess about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm sitting with you, Callum, Vishal, and I can't remember who else.
Oliver, I think, was there as well, and Francis as well.
And I can't remember who.
Callum. To this day, I will always say it was Callum.
Callum then made the point of, I can't remember why, but someone made the joke that your penis is small to him, which then he took great offence to and then proceeded to whap out in the middle. At this point then, Oliver then went up behind Sam and dunked his cock and his balls on his head. Whilst this all going on in the middle of my gaff, I don't want to be seeing this. No one wants to be seeing this. Then you got your cock out, at which point me and Vish were sitting next to each other, and I'm looking at Vishal because he's egged all of you on. I'm like, why have you done this? I don't want to be seeing this.
He's the stirrer in the background, never does it, never gets in trouble for it, but he's always there.
I don't want to be seeing that. And then, of course, everyone who's outside having a fag then comes inside and then decides they want to show their cocks off as well. And it became a very awkward night.
It did. It did indeed.
fucking hate that as well. Do you know what as well the worst part as well was, right? So it was so hot in the flat that we didn't have any ice cubes going about. So people were literally shoving frozen tatties down their fucking
anything
pants.
From your freezer was taken out and used.
Literally shoving frozen tatties down their fucking pants to keep themselves cool. It's just like, what the fuck is going on? But yeah, no, so a fun night. Then also Struan has said for you to tell the story about a time that him and you started a fight with two Chinese guys.
Oh God. So this story for us is called Batman, just as a
Batman. It's got like a title and everything.
The title, it was a wild time. So this was, I think, 2019. Christmas 2019, we went out and had a really nice dinner.
The glorious days when COVID wasn't real.
Yeah, when we were actually out doing things. Out had a very nice Christmas dinner with a big group of us. Then we went to our sort of favourite local bar, and we just kind of chilled out, got some drinks, and then it got to about maybe 1 a.m. And then as usual, as it ended up at that bar quite a lot, was me and Struan just last people there, just talking to the owners, having a laugh, chilled night. And then these two Chinese regular customers come in, and they start chatting to us for a bit, and then we're like, okay, cool, deal with it. We don't really want to talk Chinese at this point. The drunker you get, the less you want to talk Chinese, or the more. It's like a 50-50. You either really want to speak Chinese and just start talking pish out your mouth with Chinese, or you just don't want to speak it.
How good is your Chinese when you're drunk, out of curiosity?
Actually, better. I don't know. I've talked to quite a lot of language people about this. Like, quite a lot of people find that because they're more confident when they're drunk, their actual language skills is a lot better, just because you're less in your head and you're more just going with what you know and just using what you can to fill the gaps, kind of thing. Okay. So you'd be surprised, like drunk people speaking like second languages are often actually quite good. But essentially, I turn away and I look back, and Struan's in an argument with one of them, and I'm pretty drunk.
About what?
It ends up being about cigarettes. The guy thought Struan had asked this guy for a cigarette, and then about 10 minutes later, the guy goes, "You stole my cigarette."
I should do.
After asking politely and receiving said cigarette. So this guy then started arguing with Struan. So then I come over, and I'm pretty drunk, and I'm like, I'll just say this first off. I am not normally a violent person, or like I never instigate things.
That's a good preface to start with, isn't it?
I never instigate things. I don't enjoy conflict. I'm not one of those people that goes up looking for scraps. But I was so fucked that I come over to the table and essentially in Chinese say, "Well, is there a problem here?" Big dick.
Jab your arms out like that. Like, is there a fucking problem here?
Just the beer bottle down. Stamping your authority on the table, and that obviously doesn't help. And then it gets worse and worse. And then his pal comes over. So then it's me and Struan and this Chinese guy and his pal, and we're just arguing over Struan stealing a cigarette when he didn't steal a cigarette. And then they start like grabbing their bottles and like waving them in their face, like trying to act like real. So then I take one of their bottles, like I take their bottle of it, finish one of their beers, and then pour the rest out on the table and give them an empty bottle back. Just like, well, here's your beer. I'm not a violent person. I don't know. This one night was just a weird anomaly where I was like, do you know what? Fuck it. Let's get in a scrap or something. It's Christmas, Who doesn't want to scrap on Christmas?
That is the spirit of Christmas right there.
Sharing's caring, And then it just kind of kept boiling over. The owner came over and kind of split us up, and tried to calm the situation down. And then it was completely calm. The guy's pal who hadn't been involved in this cigarette thing came over and he was like, "I'm really sorry. Me and my friend are really sorry. We don't want any problems." We're like, "Yeah, cool, no problem." He's like, "Oh, so cool, no problems." We're like, "Yeah, no problems, no problems." And then we're like, "Oh, does your friend want to come over and we'll apologize and he'll apologize and we'll go?" And then he just stood up and he was like, "No, my friend apologize? Why does my friend have to apologize?" And we're like, "What?" And then he just storms out of the bar, and we just look at each other like, "What the fuck just happened?" Like, we had solved this. Then there's the Chinese guy and his pal, they basically fuck off. And then we're just talking to the manager for a bit, completely chill. He's like, "Yeah, those guys are fucking wankers, they're always trying to start fights and stuff." And we're like, "Oh, well, we're Scottish and we're drunk on Christmas. We'll give them a fight." And then they come back, and then the guy that had done all this cigarette stuff is standing with his arms folded, really upset.
He came back to the bar.
So they came back like 10 minutes later, and then the guy who'd started all this is just standing with his hand folded, and then his pal is standing there with 2 baseball bats, one in each hand. Literally at the front of the bar, 2 baseball bats, this is why it's called Batman.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Batman. And then for the rest of the time, we called him Batman. Like the entire rest of the time, he's still known as Batman.
What, he just rocked up to the bar with 2 baseball bats?
Rocked up with 2 baseball bats. So he was ready to scrap. Later found out he does
I think he was away to training.
Later found out he's like a martial artist or something or other. So we were going to get our heads kicked.
I thought you were going to say like a picture for a baseball team. Fucking, later found out the baseball bats were perfectly legal.
Apparently had like nunchucks and all sorts in his car as well.
Right, okay.
He literally ran to fucking Jackie Chan right out.
And tried to pick a fight. So then he stands there, and then the bar manager goes out and tries to stop the fight. So the bar manager's standing there like, no, that's not going. Whereas me and Struan are standing with glass bottles behind him, like, come on then. Come on. But then it all kind of calms down again. And then as we're trying to like sort of get our shit together, Struan's friend from Nankai, this girl shows up, and this girl that Struan's been sort of flirting with, whatever. Turns out she's going out with Batman. So
wait, hold on. So the girl that Struan is flirting with is going out with the guy at
the start, is now going out with Batman. We had no idea about this. So she shows up and we're like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And she's like, "You're picking fights with my boyfriend." We're like, "Oh, okay, that's awkward." So then she went in.
She knows Struan was flirting with her.
I think it was like a mutual, like kind of like each other thing. And then it just didn't really develop. And then she went and got a Chinese boyfriend. So then she shows up and she's like, "Why are you fighting?" And we're like, "How did you know?" She's like, "That's my boyfriend." And we're like, "Oh, that's awkward." So then she calms it all down.
It's his fault.
Yeah. So then she calms it down, and we're kind of leaving. And then Struan's in. So the other part of the story is that with us was a half-blind American girl having a panic attack in the corner the entire time.
Why is this like a story out of a film, honestly?
So because we done this big Christmas night dinner out, she was like pals with one of our Scottish pals, and our Scottish pal had left and was like, she left us with her. She was like, just help her get home and stuff like that. Like she had a cane. I think she could see, I can't remember her percentages of vision, but she was I think she was like blind in one eye and had maybe like 20-30% vision in the other. So she was out with us, and then this all happens, and she's basically just the entire time in a corner having a panic attack, because she obviously can't see anything, she can just hear what's going on. So then, and this half-blind girl Struan was kind of flirting with that night, and they were going to ended up together. So then the girl that he'd been kind of liking before shows up to be like back up her boyfriend, and then Struan is with this other girl who he's kind of getting his drunk flirt on with. And then as we're trying to leave, I'm like, "Struan, all right, let's not get our heads kicked in. This is our chance. Let's go." Struan's like, "No, I'm not leaving without this Nankai girl, this girlfriend of the Batman." He's like, "No, I'm not leaving without her, whilst he's got a half-blind American girl on his arm. So then we leave.
The boy's a fucking Ronin.
Yeah.
If you're watching Struan, you're a fucking Ronin.
Oh, man. So the other girl comes with us, and then as we're walking along, as soon as Struan's distracted enough looking after the blind girl, she leaves and goes back to the bar to make sure Batman doesn't follow us to kick our heads in. So that was like our Christmas night, and then as we're walking back to my university, we get to like on campus, and then the girl that we're with, the blind girl, has an asthma attack. So she then has to pass me her room card. I have to run like 5 minutes to our student dorms, run past the guard who's shouting at me, telling me I had to sign in because it was like 3 a.m. or something. So I had to run past the guard who's shouting at me to come back, go up to her room, a room I've never been in, who she shares with another girl, and then I have to stumble about in the dark, trying not to wake this girl up, but also trying to find an inhaler in a room I've never been in. So some poor girl has just had
an inhaler out.
I don't know. And then so some poor girl has just had this stumbling drunk Scotsman burst into her room at 3 a.m., rummage around, take something and leave. And then I had to run all the way back, give her an inhaler. And then, that was it. That was the wild night, really. After the asthma attack, it all sort of calmed down after that, Then Struan was going to be staying in my room. I left my door open for him, wake up the next morning at like 10, 11 a.m. Struan's not there. My door's still wide open. It's been open all night because Struan has went downstairs to go winch this blind girl. That was the one thing I was annoyed. I didn't care about the rest of it. I was annoyed. My door was open.
That was
he
the
just
one
left my door
part.
open. Yeah. That was my one problem with that whole story.
I'm not gonna lie, it sounds like a good night out.
Definitely my wildest Christmas.
Yeah. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Right, okay.
Season of joy and love and understanding.
Right, if something beats that is going to be incredible.
Nah, that's my go-to. That is my China story. If I ever have to wow someone with my experience, it's either I got arrested or got in a fight with a guy with 2 baseball bats.
That's a good one.
It's the fact that he had 2. Like there was 2 people and 2 baseball bats, but one of them just did nothing, and one of them had both baseball bats.
He wanted like dual wields,
Yeah. Akimbo style, yeah. Zombie akimbo baseball bats or something.
But yeah, okay. 2 more then. Okay, that Struan sent me that I want to question you about. One time you rugby tackled him in a bar, apparently.
Yep. Honestly, I think it was more than once. Like me and Struan had this thing where it's like we'd get really drunk and then we're not anyone that knows us, we are not alpha males. We're not
really? Struan, not an alpha male?
He
gives
right?
off such alpha energy.
Such alpha energy. I wouldn't want to mess with him. We're just not macho guys, but don't know what it is. Whenever we get drunk and bored, we'd just be like, right, time for a random scrap in the middle of this bar. And then we just deck each other or throw proper high school bullshit where it's just random headlocks and decking each other and crap. But in the middle of a busy bar that we go to very often.
And the owners are just chill with that, aye?
Yeah, they were tons of times there would be I'd have Struan pinned to the ground and the owners would just step over us and be like, "Hi, Struan," and just keep walking.
You remember how 10 minutes ago, Cam, you said you're not a violent person?
I know, not painting that picture. I don't know, drunk Cam, different person, alter ego. And it's the beginning of that could be a Scottish Marvel edition. Add that to Marvel, just a Scottish man that is super nice, Superman-esque level nice throughout the day.
Captain Scotland.
And then as soon as he gets attendance in him, turns into this evil mastermind villain that just attacks people and pees on them.
Captain Glasgow. A man to be feared.
I'd pay to see that, a Captain Glasgow rip-off.
Oh, just get Lemmy as well to play him.
You get Lemmy, then. Oh man, that'd be amazing. But yeah, so that would just be a common occurrence on our drinking nights out. It's just rugby tackling or decking each other in the middle of a busy bar, and then people just stepping over is it's just Cameron and Struan.
I wish I could get away with that kind of stuff in the bar that I went to.
Mm-hmm.
And final one that he suggested to me is that apparently you're in a drinking competition when you were.
Oh yes. So when I went over when I was 18, I had never really drunk before. I'd had a couple of ciders at gaffs and stuff like that, but I wasn't one of those drinking people that got to Nah.
You're never out on the streets at 13.
Nah, I was just never a party person when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Like friends had parties and gaffs and stuff, and I'd go for a bit, but I'd have a couple ciders, look after the drunk people, and leave.
Were you ever like
and-
that, Jamie? Just
What part?
like, would you ever like go to like random gaffs and that for like a night out when you're still in high school, or well,
No.
just left? No.
Nah, wasn't pals when I couldn't school, mate. Didn't know like anybody.
Yeah, no.
Get
Especially
my
Liam
tiny
guy.
violin out.
Especially you, Liam. Didn't know you at all. Nah, I didn't, but because obviously I never really drank at all, so there was no need for me to go to somebody's house
Mm.
and, you know, be a underage alcoholic fucking thug. That wasn't me. Right?
Listen,
was
there's
amazing.
nothing wrong when you're 13 and going down the park and having a tinny. But I mean, also, if you're underage, don't drink.
Never do it.
If
Message
you're
no.
underage, avoid Liam as well.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I'll avoid you as well, but yeah.
There's no chance he's avoiding you, so stay clear, people.
Quality banter.
But yeah, no, so anyway, sorry, you're saying about your drinking.
Oh yeah, so I just wasn't much of a drinker, and then 18 went off to China with 20 other Scottish kids, quite a lot of whom happened to be quite strong drinkers. And one of them, our pal Alistair, was this rugby guy from Perth, who was a typical rugby lad, you know, lads, let's drink tons, do stupid shit, all this stuff.
I mean, rugby players are Ronins. Let's just have it right here.
End of story.
Oh, say that to Cal. Say that to Callum's face.
I'll fucking tell it to his
Okay,
face.
I'll bat fuck him.
Oh, you've not seen Callum.
I couldn't give a fuck. Mate, all the rugby boys, they all suck each other off in the fucking changing rooms. I'm
Like you
telling
ever
you.
seen like those videos, Cammy, of like the initiation ceremony or whatever? Just like
In the
fucking
tail end of that, of Callum like showing up drunk to nights out and stuff after like rugby drinking games, just fucked out, isn't it?
It's just like, you know, it's fucking a bunch of like 12 guys just standing around pissing in a cup drinking. I mean, that's no the life for me, you know. You're all wrong. I will.
You'd
say
rather
right
be
now,
the one that they're all pissing and what's the point in a cup? Liam's
No.
mouth.
The cup, Liam would be the cup.
Liam would be the
Fuck
cup.
up. But I will say, if you are a rugby player and you're watching, you are a wrong one.
No.
But anyway,
Um,
sorry, continue.
So ended up having my first proper alcohol nights out. Got drunk a few times, really enjoyed it, and then basically just at a drunk pub over the table, this rugby guy, me, were chatting, was like, "Oh, I can drink a lot more than you. You know, I'm a big brother." And I was like, "Well, sure, let's fucking prove it." So we made up this like dumb drinking competition rules, and so it was like 3 liters of beer and like a big pitcher, and it was basically just who could finish first. And
Was
actually,
it just one eye?
yeah, just 1 3.
Yeah.
See, looking back now, I'd be like, I'm looking at it going, no problem. That's, you know, good pre-drinks, you know.
Were
Back
you
then,
scared when it arrived though, and it was like placed in front of you?
it's one of those big fucking pictures they put on the table as well. So it's like up to here, and you're just staring at like, I'm drinking that, and as quickly as possible as well. So that was like our competition, is kind of who could finish it first. Unfortunately, I lost. I was close though.
I was hoping for like
true underdog story.
I was hoping for a proper underdog story there. Like I came in, I smashed them.
It was actually pretty close though. It worked out. Like everyone thought, like we all did a lot better than we thought we'd. Both Whited like twice though into like buckets at the table though, because it's just straight.
Buckets. Well, they provide buckets.
They provided buckets and stuff. Like the bar literally. So the thing was as well, the winner won a bottle of tequila, like a full bottle of tequila.
Well,
like
the other person had to buy them. So.
Yeah. So loser buys this bottle of tequila for the winner.
Right.
We go to the bar and we do our competition. Then they bring out another bottle of tequila and they're like, "Congratulations!" Like, because we'd brought 20 Scottish kids to this bar, who were all watching this one singular event with random Chinese people cheering us on and stuff like that. So we'd clearly made them money or we were promoting their bar for them. So they came up and gave us a free bottle of tequila after as well. So winner actually got 2 bottles of tequila. But they didn't last the night as well. The spoils of war were quickly dished out amongst everyone there. So those bottles were gone quite quickly. But yeah, that was it.
Could you imagine that, Jamie? Like, night out at the food bar, you have a drinking competition and they reward you with buckets to Whitey and a bottle of tequila for your
Right.
efforts as
We're
well.
being actively encouraged to overdrink and white it in their bar.
Yeah, you wouldn't quite get that over here, would you?
Different culture, you know, different time.
Sad times, to be honest. I want to go to China though.
Just for the drinking culture.
Hmm.
Who knew China's going to be the next Magaluf?
I mean, it costs quite a bit more to go there compared to Magaluf.
You probably save, actually. I think, on terms of how cheap alcohol is, I reckon you could maybe save or spend about the same.
It depends how early you book your tickets, like,
Yeah.
potentially, but it's a very big potential.
Because say you're going over to like Zante or Magaluf or something, you're spending what, 100 to 200 on flights there and returns?
Probably, yeah.
So China would be about 600-700 for flights. But when you're in Zante, in this place famed for its drinking culture, you're probably overpaying for pretty much every drink.
Yeah.
And whatever. I suppose
It would be close,
Mm.
but I think it might still just be cheaper. But I mean, you know, listen, there's nothing wrong with it.
Each
The
their
one-
own, you know?
The last thing I did want to ask you though about China
Mm.
before we sort of moved on from that was, like, I don't want to get too much into it, and I know everyone's not the same over there. But obviously, I've heard from like Struan, especially more than anyone else, about the sort of stereotypical racialization that happens over there,
Yeah.
especially towards like white people. Like, there's like, am I right in saying there's like white people bars only sort of thing?
Yeah, kind of. I'd say I've never been anywhere where there was a specific rule that you, as a white person, couldn't go in. But there's definitely places where foreigners hang out with no Chinese people, and Chinese want to hang out with no foreigners.
Yeah. Is it like really enforced quite strictly? Like, if you try to go into one of these places, they'd be like, "No, fuck off," basically.
I could imagine it being that way in some. In the city I was in, I never experienced that. Like, we were welcome
Yeah.
wherever we went.
So
But I
it's,
could definitely
it's
see
not
it.
that bad then.
It's not that bad, but I could definitely see it happening somewhere in China. It would just depend, I suppose, what kind of. Some people just have really bad impression of foreigners, cause people like foreigners can be seen over there drinking quite often. You'll get people that go over and teach English and make absurd amount of money and just spend it all drinking at the pubs. So quite a lot of the images that Chinese people have, I know, quite a lot of people that Chinese people have, like images of foreigners, is sort of just people that go over there to drink.
Yeah.
Which is fair. Quite a lot of foreigners do that. So sometimes you'll meet Chinese people that have never met a foreigner before, and they'll have like sort of varied opinions of you. You know, it's a bit hit or miss. But where we were was really good. Accepted everywhere. Didn't really have it that bad. I will say during COVID though, it was sort of like a switch in COVID where usually I felt really safe and very well liked. People would come talk to you. Occasionally someone would hand you their kid and take a picture with you just because you're white. Genuinely, yeah, they would just like hand you their kid.
What,
and, like,
have they never seen like a white person before?
some people have, yeah, some of them had just never seen a foreigner before. Especially the older generation, quite a lot of the older generations, especially if they're from more rural places.
Was that more just because, like, don't take this in any bad way, but I'd never heard of Thayjamieallan before, like, Struan went out there.
Yeah.
I never knew it existed. It's like a
Yeah,
city of like, what,
exactly.
like 15 million or something? So it's like 3 times the
Yeah.
population of Scotland,
One city, 3 times the population of Scotland. Yeah,
which is fucking mental to think about. And I never even heard of the place as well.
it's really
do you
weird
think
thinking
do you
that at one point I was in a busy district in Thayjamieallan that probably had the same population as Scotland.
That's fucking mental as
Insane.
well.
Yeah.
Like, because I mean, like, I can go to like Glasgow and I can feel like, God, this is like really like crowded and overpacked.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like that now that you've came back? Do you ever feel like, God, this is a lot more like relaxed compared to over there?
Definitely, because everywhere you go in China, like obviously it depends where you are, but when you're in the big cities in China, everywhere you're going, you're looking up at big buildings and stuff. Whereas here, obviously, some places don't go higher than the 3rd floor. So and flats aren't really that high up in it, whatever as well. So it's definitely a lot more relaxed there. And there's just things as well, like whenever you're in China, even if you want to go for a nice like quiet walk or something, you're going to walk past a couple of people. Like no matter, there's no space in China unless it's. Although I will say the flip side of that is, see, after about 11 a.m, the streets are empty.
Because
So-
everyone's at work,
11 p.m. Sorry, everyone's like in
Alright,
bed
okay.
after dinner and stuff like that. So like, see the streets after like coming out of a pub or whatever empty. You can get on a bike and drunk cycle home, and have absolutely no fear you're going to hit a car or whatever.
Unless
Just
other foreigners coming the
yeah,
other way and you
exactly.
cycle into them.
Yeah, we've done some like we had this thing. So they used to have like electric motorbikes. Well, not more like we bike things. It's just an app that you could use, and they were like share bikes. Like the people make Glasgow bikes, but obviously on a much bigger scale. And what we did once, we had a couple of Japanese friends. So one of us had one of these bikes, and then three of us were holding on to the back of their bike, and they were pulling us all three along, pitched out or not. Or like just racing each other down the streets and stuff like that, drunk at 1 or 2 a.m. in China and stuff like that.
At least you didn't hit a taxi then that time.
Yeah, true. I only hit a taxi once, and that was sober during the daytime, which is quite impressive, considering how much I drunk cycled the rest of the time there. But yeah, so it's like a weird flip side where it's like throughout the day and rush hour and stuff, fucking mobs, you can't get anywhere, you can't do anything. And then after 11 p.m, it's just empty. Streets are yours, do what you want.
One more thing I just wanted to ask you before moving on. Obviously, like, so see in Scotland, for those that maybe don't know, like, see like my dorms, for example, and Jamie, obviously you sort of seen it. It's like, you know, you get like a separate bathrooms, you get a bedroom, a very small bedroom, but you get a bedroom, you know, a kitchen, not really a living space, and you know, that's kind of it. However, it's quite different over there, isn't it?
Yeah. It's more like a sort of twin hotel room over there that we're staying in. You've got your own separate beds, you've got like a wee nightstand between you, a cupboard, and you've got a shared bathroom. But there's no walls, there's no door. Like if you've got a roommate, it literally is the definition of roommate. You're sharing that one room together. There's no door you can hide behind. There's no privacy.
It's like quite an American way of doing this.
Yeah, it's sort of like an American college dorms, if you picture it.
Do you get like a choice of who you stay with, or is it just random?
Yeah, so well, it depends when you show up. So like, see if you show up with another person, they'll automatically like assign you that room with that person. But see if you show up on your own and then they put you in a room, and then your friend might have a roommate and then you want to switch, but the roommate might not want to move, that kind of stuff. So it's just sort of politics at that point of finding.
Is it always male with a male?
Yeah, so they always put male with male and female with female, and then as a foreigner, you're quite lucky though. So foreigners, you get the sort of 2-star room. The Chinese students.
How lucky.
Oh, well, compared to the Chinese students, that's fucking luxury. The Chinese students have like, the Chinese boys' dorms are like 8 to a room. Literally like a bunk bed of like 3 high, like 3 beds.
What?
And there's like 4 of them in the room, and they all just share. And then there's just one big table along the middle.
I thought you and Strain had it bad.
They have it so much work. And at the end of the floor is just a communal toilet for the whole floor.
Nah, fuck that, by the way. That's actual like army regiment shit. Yeah. Fuck that.
Like
shit.
That's the boys and girls dorms are both like that. Just bunk beds that you all share in one room, and then one communal toilet. And then they've got a whole separate building they have to go to shower. So say they want to shower, they have to take like a bucket with their like toiletries, whatever clothes are going, and then they go, and it's like a communal shower room as well. So it's, you know, go get your bits out in front of your friends, have a nice wee Friday night shower together, you know.
That is fun. That is literally like army, like the way you do that. That is sounds.
Imagine all 8 can't say their shit at the same time, but you'd be fucked.
Just like line outside the door.
Well, it's like one big communal bathroom. I think there's maybe 3 toilets or whatever.
I thought you and Strain had a bad share with like one other guy in your room. Fucking hell, you had luxury compared to these boys.
So like you complain about it and you're like, oh, that shit, and then you just look outside your window and you can literally see into some of their dorms and you're like, yeah, no, I'm good, thanks. I was thinking.
Mate, my wee prison wards was perfect compared to that. I had my own room and like there was 2 bathrooms.
It looks like prison.
No, honestly.
You were fucking crying over nothing, but yours was fine. Mean,
to be fair, you seen how bad my place looked.
Nah, it was fucking fine.
I mean, the good thing was we had the pool table. That made it all better.
Yeah, pool table. What are you complaining about?
It wasn't. It was a fucking green carpet. It was on a slant, and the balls were about that size.
We called it the pool table. We all shared it between us as flatmates, and And like Jamie said, it wasn't the straightest and most level of
Oh, it was on a
tables.
fucking hill.
Like literally, if you hit a ball at a certain angle, it would roll all the way into the bottom corner.
That's class though.
That's,
Just one
that's
You used to
corner.
hit the cushion and it just stuck to the cushion and rolled all the way down the cushion.
130 quid well spent, is what I say.
Oh, fuck.
You were robbed.
Rob.
Where is
Well,
that table now?
Have I ever told this story on the podcast about happened to it?
You have.
Right, okay, well, we won't bore the old viewers of it, but basically it's gone to a good home now, shall we say, of someone at the Salvation Army. So, you know, it's done its job. Probably it's firewood, but, you know, it's done well.
Yeah. I was about to say, I'm surprised you just didn't chuck it in a bonfire.
I love that. I would have taken that to our next flat, but we shared it between 4 people, and shall we say, we had a slight disagreement with one of the flatmates, so it ended up going to a different home.
Fair enough.
But yeah, so obviously you came back from China then at some point. Well, you said, was it November last year?
Yeah, a couple months ago, yeah.
What are you doing now? What's the plans?
Honestly, fuck knows. So came back, I got a job about a month later, just start of December, just marks. Stacking shelves basically for Christmas. Ended up doing the night shift there. Did like a couple weeks worth of just straight night shifts, 10-hour shifts. But it was good money. It was like 12 quid an hour because you get paid time and a third for I think anything past 10 o'clock or something. So I was pretty class. Did that for a while, but because it was in Bishopbriggs and I don't drive, it was about an hour, just over an hour every day on buses to get there. So after about January, left there and just been kind of job hunting since. Applied to UCAS. I've got summer school next month. Because I haven't done my hires for about 5 years at this point, I don't even think they're relevant. So doing summer school to sort of prove that I still know the stuff. If I pass that, I go into first year for manufacturing and design engineering.
Where are you doing that
at? Strathclyde.
Right.
Just sort of saw the course, looked quite interesting. Like I said before, I was going to go and do all the China stuff. Engineering was kind of where I was heading. So now that I'm back, honestly, I'm just excited to learn in English again. Actually understand what is being taught to me, not just going yeah, and then figuring it out like 3 weeks later during an exam.
Do you think you'll go back at any point to study again, or have you closed that sort of chapter in your life?
I think maybe. Like I do enjoy, like I said, I really enjoy just learning the language. Like that's quite interesting because you're just learning to speak to new people, and you get a lot of payoff from it because you go to a bar and you speak to someone and you learn about them, and it's someone you would never be able to talk to if you didn't learn the language, you know.
Yeah.
So it's quite cool. But I don't know. I think I've used up my time there in terms of studying. If I was to go back, I'd go back for work. Like, see if there's tons of money over there for any job you do there, because you'd maybe get paid the same you'd get here, but because the cost of living over there is so cheap, you end up making a lot more because you're just you're doing a lot more with your money. Probably like my scholarship was only, I think, first year was only 150 quid a month, and that was still enough to get us out drinking pretty much every weekend night throughout the week, eating out all the time, didn't make a single meal. Like everything over there is just so cheap. So if I went over and got an actual adult job with big sugar daddy money, could buy me some hose and become a pimp or whatever. I don't know.
Living the good life.
Living the good China life. So I think that might be the plan, is do engineering here, see how that goes, and then maybe either go over and teach English maybe for a year, just for the sort of sake of going back and doing a bit of traveling, having a bit more money. Or
it's obviously all over.
Yeah. Well, this is like hopefully in 4 years when I've got a degree. So, and then don't know, just travel probably. I like the idea of engineering as well. It's quite international, so good chance of getting a job in, maybe America or like an English-speaking country, or learn a language and then go work there for a year or whatever.
Would you live there permanently in China?
Nah, I think when I was over there I would have said yes, but since coming home, I kind of realized there's just something about being home, like your home where you grew up, being around, like when you're over there and you meet international people, it's really nice to see other cultures, and mix and match, but sometimes there's just nothing like a good bit of like Scottish patter, and just sitting with a pint in the pub and chatting to your pals and shit.
I mean, I know it's completely different, but also like when I was away in Jersey for 3 months, like I know it's nothing compared to what you did or went through, but it's like even those 3 months, I really missed it so much, just being around similar-minded folk, because obviously over there it's a very different way of living. So I wanted to get back to that as soon as I could, but yeah, it's obviously a lot more different. But no, that's really interesting. I've learned a lot more from you than I have done from students, so I appreciate that.
Time. Big fucking time.
But what we're going to do now, Cammy, just before we end, is we're going to play a wee game, okay?
Oh God, yeah.
Jamie, do you want me to explain it?
No. You know, I take the reins in this situation because you'll shake yourself, go red, and you know, I don't want that happening. Right, what we're going to do is we're going to play a game called Hot Seat, right?
Okay.
And they're still yet to sponsor. Bastards. However, what Hot Seat is it's a game in which Liam is going to give you a letter, right? Now, say the letter is L, right? He'll then follow up with 10 categories, right? So with that letter, you have to then say a word, relate to that category. You know, with it start with L, effectively. So if it was football teams,
an animal.
Exactly. So football teams, Liverpool, you know, so forth. Now, 10 topics. Idea is you get 10 right as quick as you can.
Okay.
If you do get one, you know, if you say something just stupid, we'll pass it and add time on.
Okay.
Idea is get at minimum 5, or otherwise it's a DNF.
Okay.
And you'll be laughed at. Massively.
What's the high score?
Well, so I was having a look at the board there just beforehand. The fastest we've ever had is you, Mackenzie, with 27 correct. 27 seconds and 10 correct. I'll be honest, if you do that, that is, well, it's basically impossible.
That's not happening.
No. However, though, Struan, who I imagine you'd like to beat, is on 113 with 8 correct, okay?
Okay, that's my goal. Beat that.
Yeah. So, like Jamie said, obviously, going to be 10 questions. Going to go forwards. Just going to answer them as fast as you can. If you do get 5 wrong, we give you one more chance. So, if you do get a DNF, okay?
Cool.
Cammy.
Yes.
Your letter is R. Now, you get one chance to re-roll if you would like it. Would you like the re-roll or would you like to stick with R?
Yes, I would like to re-roll.
Re-roll, okay. Your letter is N, okay?
N.
Which is actually the same letter that Struan got.
God, okay.
Pressure's on, mate. 3, 2, 1. Diseases.
Novel virus.
Clothing.
Next.
School subjects.
News journalism.
Bad habits.
Nose picking.
Reasons to make a phone call.
Not home.
Things to do at a party.
Neck a cold brewski.
Common surnames.
Newton.
Things to do at a circus.
Nap.
Musical instruments.
Oof.
You can pass if you can't think.
Gonna pass.
Things you shout.
No homos.
Impressive. Seems like an impressive time.
Considering the letter you had and some of the answers you pulled out of the bag there, that was a very fucking good time, by the way.
Critical thinking.
So,
what's a musical instrument with N? Any ideas?
I actually can't think of one beginning with N. Can you, Jamie?
No.
I'm sure there is one, but I can't think of one off the top of the head.
I'll find
anyway, so Cammy,
yes,
you got 9 correct.
Woo.
Okay, and you got a score of 1 minute and 5 seconds.
Oof.
Which, to be fair, that's a very you're on Zoom rather, sorry, and you've done it with a difficult letter, and not only that, the same letter that Struan had, and you've done it in about like 8 seconds quicker than he done it. So you've done well.
There is one starting with N called a Nakos, but it's the only one in the world, and it's a North African and Middle Eastern percussion instrument.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, that's, like,
Nah.
for
yeah,
that.
you're clutching at straws if you're trying to claim that you're going to get that, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Either way, that's actually a bit of shit from them that they've included that as one. But yeah, no, honestly, Cammy, that's a really good time. And listen, really appreciate you coming on. Been a great guest, and I appreciate all the insight into everything.
Yeah, it was lovely to be here.
No worries. Yeah, in terms of that, is there anything else you guys want to add, or is that us?
Fuck you, Struan.
That's a good place to end it, in my opinion.
Yeah,
In that case, I've been Liam Whyte.
I've been Thayjamieallan.
I've been Cameron Inglis.
And we'll see you next week. Goodbye.
We talk football and current events, sitting and chatting with the very best guests. We're two Scottish boys and we're loving it. So if you like witty banter, check the former #1 podcast on iTunes. Sitting and chatting.